Well, welcome back to the Jazz Joe Hall Show on CKNW. Well, today I wanted to tell you the story of Nigel Habgood. Recently, Mr. Habgood raced to call 911 when he found his wife Carol badly bleeding on the floor of their Qualicum home. But what followed was an over 20-minute wait on hold for someone to pick up his call for help. He told Victoria's Czech TV, "I couldn't believe that I hadn't got an operator after that length of time. I was just astounded." Mr. Habgood is 72 years old. The incident happened August 28th, the day after Parksville resident Chuck Blakey died on his kitchen floor, waiting on hold with 911 for 30 minutes. Mr. Habgood came forward because he didn't want people to think that the incident regarding Chuck Blakey, the Parksville resident, was a one-off, that this is impacting him, his family clearly, and many others as well. Joining us now is Troy Clifford, the provincial president of Ambulance Paramedics and Dispatchers of BC, and he has been a paramedic for the past 33 years. Mr. Clifford, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jazz, for having me on.
Yeah, so tell me, why is this happening?
Yeah, first of all, it bothers me a lot when I hear these type of things. That's not what we're about, and really going back to prior to the heat dome and the situation we've seen in late June and early July, which sort of exposed and questioned some of the responses and the capacity of the ambulance service following the heat sort of crisis or dome, whatever you want to call it, right? Mm-hmm. And then led up to the minister's announcement on July 14th to try and enhance and change some of the governance and that of the ambulance service. So, the issues that we're talking about were going on prior to those that bad time we went through, and really sort of was the straw that broke the camel's back, is what I've been describing as. And we've had staffing shortages in our dispatch centers, our emergency medical call takers, so we haven't had enough. And at the end of the day, it's really put us in a real tough situation. And, nothing's coming quick enough for families like you just described. Mm-hmm. So we are seeing those shortages in our dispatch centers for answering emergency calls in a timely fashion. And nothing's going to...
So, but in regards to specific challenge, and these things can be structural, and it's never just one government, sometimes it is, how much of this began under the BC Liberals when they were in government?
Oh, honestly, it really started probably over 16 years, going back 10 years, really, where we started seeing no improvements in resources in the ambulance service. We know that 6% a year, our call volume goes up. Our responses, requests for services, go up by 6% a year. We have never seen the increase that we've seen in the last year or two but particularly in the last year with the increases in full-time positions and other things. So, to be honest, it goes back a long time to the previous government where we've seen not keeping up with, not adding any resources, to be honest, but not keeping up with even the basic demands that were increased. So, quite frankly, the current government and the minister really understands the ambulance service a lot. And, when the things came to head, I really believe that they stepped up and they put incredible resources in, but nothing is quick enough for what we're hearing, these tragic situations. That just makes me sick to hear about these families.
Yeah. Now, look, I'm in downtown Vancouver, live in Metro Vancouver. What are the unique challenges of dispatching and just doing the job as a paramedic in smaller communities, particularly on the island?
Yeah, so we have 3 dispatch centers that dispatch all the ambulances for the whole province. So in Victoria, we have a communication center that dispatches for Vancouver Island in its entirety, one in Vancouver that does primarily the Lower Mainland, and then one in Kamloops that does what we call Beyond Hope for the rest of the province. So that's a large geographic area. And those are paramedic medical dispatchers that both dispatch the ambulance, and we have medical call takers. And what they do is they provide instructions in emergencies, but that's assuming you can get through to them, right? And when you're delayed getting, that's really the pressure that puts on. We have on those dispatchers that when they don't have resources or they're looking at their screen and seeing that there's calls holding for that period of time, the psychological impacts on them is incredible. That's not what we're about. We're here, like every one of profession is here to help our patients, whether you're a dispatcher or a medical call taker or a paramedic on the street. And when we see not being able to do it because of system problems, that absolutely puts a lot of pressure, and it causes psychological injuries. There's no question. We know that after the heat dome, we saw a lot of our dispatchers and paramedics accessing our critical incident stress management program. Mm-hmm. And that can't be. This is not about a horrific call that they've experienced. This is about system frustrations that are causing the stresses, and those are preventable things, and that's what's I think really affecting paramedics and dispatchers.
So more resources, more money, you say, is coming. When can we see it start impacting you on the front lines, where we don't have to hear stories like this again? Yeah,
so I actually earlier today I had a meeting with the new senior leadership in the governance with Leanne Heppel, who's part of the governance that was appointed after the July 14th ministry, and Neil Lilly and the heads of communications, our dispatch centers. And those 30 positions that were added immediately on July 14th, I think is when the announcement was, are already in place. Today was actually the first day that they're starting their training in dispatch. So it's not easy to train a dispatcher, but we anticipate by early October we'll have those additional resources put into dispatch. And then they've got a plan for the next 6 months to implement additional spots and keep adding positions to make sure that we're recruiting enough to fulfill the dispatcher, which will address, the goal is to address those delays in 911 responses, to answer the phones and get medical help to those people. But the positions on what we call CAR is the paramedic positions on the streets have already been posted, and the additional resources around the province. So, to go back to what you said about what the challenge is to work and live in a small town, is that everybody knows you in that town, and it really reflects on the paramedics when they're out there and people say you didn't meet the needs of somebody in their time of need. And that's because you know these people, you know the impacts that could be their only time they've ever had to have an emergency, and that's their experience. Mm-hmm. When you've affected a patient like that or a family, that's really takes its toll on the responders, but more importantly on the family and the patients that are impacted.
Final question, how many people full-time are we looking at here? Is it 10 people, 5 people? How many more dispatchers and generally full-time equivalent are we going to see so the system can catch up in your mind?
Yeah, so the 85 that was added in metro and urban really is just a drop in the bucket. We need to be able to meet those, the dispatch, we easily could double our numbers right now to get to those numbers down, that we can't have anybody waiting on hold on 911. So that's the threshold. And then you have to have capacity to additionally catch up. So if you have any spikes or increases, you need to make sure that you have the capacity to do that. And same on the streets with paramedics and that. So in Metro Vancouver, we need an incredible amount of more resources to meet that threshold of 8.59 minutes to arrive at all critical calls. Mm-hmm. We know that over 10 minutes in some urban areas of the lower mainland are not being met. So I would say we probably could easily add another 100, 200 paramedics in the lower mainland to really meet the current demands, to catch up for what you described as a long time of not being able to meet the demands. And, we have challenges with recruitment. Everybody's looking for additional resources or manpower, like people, to fill these spots. So we have to make sure we can entice them in with the proper wages and benefits. So everything is about money in a lot of ways, but it's really about patient care and commitments to that.
Well, thank you so much, Troy. I really appreciate that.
Definitely lots to talk about, Jazz, and I appreciate you having the opportunity to just explain to the public what the paramedics are really and dispatchers are going through, and we're trying to do our best. And I believe we're on the right course, but it's going to take some time, and hopefully we have no more situations like you described that Kate brought about this call.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Clifford, and we'll definitely have you on the show again. Thank you so much for your time.